Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Massive rumours emerging last night that the 12th team in the CDL may no longer exist going into the new season. Los Angeles Guerrillas so far have done absolutely nothing this roster mania period, haven't tweeted in months, and apparently haven't been talking to any players either. We still kind of believed at some point they have to sign somebody based on potentially contractual obligations with their contract with the Call of Duty League. ZooMaa says though, from what he's hearing, that might not necessarily be the case, and we could have a legitimate scenario where there are only 11 teams in the CDL. What would we do if this was the case? What does it mean for some of the pro players? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, we've got to talk about the Challenger stuff. There are a few players now that are deciding, and understandably, to step away from Challengers. Zeppa is one Australian player that's been around a long time. He says that, you know, for the time being, until there's more international opportunities and more regional support, he's going to call it a day in Challengers, move to Warzone, playing tournaments, stuff like that. So, you know, cool stuff, probably the right decision. It's unfortunate that the CDL in all aspects right now is not looking particularly good. We'll see more of that in a second. Some players, though, are sticking around. Glowfrosty, for example, Hamza, he's still going. Free agent mainly after the upcoming MW3 Challengers year. So hopefully it works out for the best for these players. And I'm sure a lot of these players now are looking, all right, you know what, just ride it out this year. And then next year, who knows what's going to happen, because, let's be honest, when the CDL initially came around, it was complete chaos in Rostermania because everyone became a free agent effectively. If the CDL comes to an end, you know, they might have to do something where all the contracts are voided and it's complete chaos, which does open the doors to Challenger players such as this team, as Hixie says. Myself, Bance, Beans, Nasty, and Marky B. It is incredible to me that none of these guys are in the league. And to be honest, I think that if Los Angeles Guerrillas did make a team, I'd probably get at least a couple of these guys, but apparently not. And yeah, Hixie, Bance, obviously Beans comes in to do the slaying. Nasty was so good last year for London, like, I really can't believe he's not on the team. And then Marky B, who was, let's not forget, former head coach for Toronto, and then most recently for the Los Angeles Guerrillas, who was then released a couple of months ago now. They're working together going into the new year. And yeah, obviously as JKL says, the fact that not one of these people in the league is crazy, but Beans is still on the Boston bench, we think. He's still kind of like a restricted free agent signed to those guys. I thought at some point they might just release him, but yeah, it seems like Beans is going to be on their bench still, but it's a little bit strange because you'd think if you're Boston, your bench player, you'd want him to be on your Challengers team, whereas this is not going to be the Boston Academy, is it? So not exactly sure what the future holds there, but he did have a 2-year deal, so he is still salaried, I think, to the Boston Breach, at least for the time being. And yeah, Marky B says a similar thing. But regardless, I have no doubts that each player here will prove everybody wrong, excited to get to work. So wishing those boys the best going into the new season. Just before we get into the Los Angeles Guerrillas stuff, I thought it was crazy how 50-50 this was, and I really didn't know what way to vote on this either. Of course, everyone would prefer, I think, the league to start in December and finish at least in August, if not September, if not even further than that. But, you know, to me, December to, like, September would be the perfect length of season if there's enough majors to fill it out with, which we don't seemingly have. This new year, based on the format we saw yesterday, is going to be December to July. Now, JKL also says, what about January to August? How about don't start it in December? And I'm kind of torn on this because I want the league to finish as late as possible because, like, the long off seasons are horrendous, but at the same time, like, starting late definitely fails to capitalize on some of the potential when the game was launched. So, you know, having thought about it again, I would probably vote for December to July. But there's another part of me that thinks, well, at least when the game launches, that's fresh content, right? There are tournaments that happen when the game launches, even if the CDL isn't there. So maybe I prefer the other one again. I don't really know. The other thing that was being talked about yesterday, a bit of rabception here going on, were the cities, right? I mentioned them in a video yesterday, but just wanted to go into a bit more detail here because, of course, these aren't all cities, right? Like I mentioned Texas, Miami, Boston, Carolina, Toronto, but, you know, Texas is a state. North Carolina is really, you know, okay, it's Carolina or Ravens, but it's really North Carolina because they are based out of Charlotte. Okay, the other three are cities. These are the cities that I've heard talked about. So, of course, the Texas event is going to be in Dallas again, you would well think. Maybe not, I guess we'll see. Carolina this is the interesting one for me because if it is North Carolina, is it going to be Ravens hosting an event? Or is this going to be the league doing an event in North Carolina, i.e. Raleigh, right? Because last year Major 1 was in Raleigh, the CDL put that event on, and then they also put on Champs, I guess. So maybe they've got the budget to do that again, and that Carolina event is going to be a CDL hosted event in Raleigh like before. Maybe true, but then again, Raleigh last year was great because it was a Pro-Am, there was Challenger stuff there was the COD Mobile World Championship there. This year, that's not the case, right? Pretty sure they're doing the COD Mobile Champs at DreamHack Atlanta, which was rumored to be a potential location for Major 1. Obviously, that's not how it's turned out. But yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what that is, because Ravens, on paper, are like, at least they have been for the last couple of years, some of the weakest financially supported organization, shall we say. Like, they haven't got much money in the bank. They haven't hosted an event since right at the start of 2020, and I think it was February 2020 when they put one on in London, and wasn't quite at the same caliber as CWL London that was put on by Gfinity the year before. London were meant to have another home series later that year, but of course that turned out to be online after the pandemic happened. So I don't know if Ravens, since moving to Carolina, now all of a sudden have some money coming in, or whether this is actually a CDL put on event. I know there was also talk about the fact that there's no Atlanta event. Again, the fact that Atlanta have had not the dominant team, but the best team of pretty much every single year with the CDL. At least if you look at the, of the CDL, FaZe are definitely the dominant team. And if you look at the rankings of the season standings, they're number 1 every year. But still, no Atlanta event in recent memory. Frustrating, but, that's the way the league goes. If the organization doesn't want to put it on, they can't afford to lose the money, or they're not sure they're going to break even, because if you're Boston, if you're Toronto, probably the reason you're doing it again if you're Texas is because you can just about break even on the event. Maybe they take a small loss, maybe they take a small gain, but it's pretty much a matter of, they're not losing, they're trying not to lose money, really. Whereas some organizations, if they haven't done one before, won't be sure of the financials, especially in the current circumstances. And this is where we get onto Los Angeles Guerrillas, because we can be sure as hell they're not hosting an event. The other thing I guess on this is that pretty much all of these are going to be East Coast, or obviously Texas is Central Time. But that is, at least for me, that's pretty good. The West Coast events take, at least from this time zone, become very challenging, and also quite challenging to attend. So I'm pretty happy with this, but I'm sure people from the West Coast might not necessarily agree. Now, Los Angeles Guerrillas, this is the team under the spotlight now, because we're pretty sure we know what Carolina Royal Ravens are doing with their roster. We're pretty sure we know what Vegas are doing with their roster. We don't know what LAG are doing. Now, this account, Supersonic or whatever, comes out with a post yesterday and says that in the Overwatch League last year, of course, the sister league to the CWL, the CDL, rest in peace, the CWL, maybe we'll get you back at some point, but he mentions that the Chengdu Hunters simply decided not to field a team. They just folded organizations, or folded operations entirely, folded their organization. The parent organization apparently went bankrupt, so they couldn't fund operations on the esports side, and that was it. Now, this is very similar to what the Guard LAG are going through when Cronky has decided, what, esports, it ain't worth it at the moment. We're going to get out of here with everything, skeleton as we can possibly get it for the time being. Yes, LA Guerrillas still exists, but they have no staff, they have no players, they have no general manager, they have no coach, and the game comes out in just over a week. So, what are we doing right now for Los Angeles Guerrillas? This was, I think, the Chengdu Hunters logo as well, and there was obviously talk about it at the time in the Overwatch community. So ZooMaa sees this post on Reddit and actually commented on it as well, and says, from his understanding, from what he's heard behind the scenes, LA Guerrillas haven't really talked to anyone at all, which kind of implies that they are not going to field a team if they can get away with it.
There's a real chance LAG does not field a team this year, and is president with Activision Blizzard Esports. He said there's something about LG will pick up, but to me, I think LG will end up fielding nobody. They simply won't participate in the league this year. For those who are unaware, last year in the Overwatch League, the season started with 19 teams instead of 20. The Chengdu Hunters did not field a team and ended up folding operations entirely. Rumors are that the parent organization went bankrupt, so they could not fund operations for their esports side. Sound familiar? Okay. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it, chat, if LAG didn't field a team either. Based on what I've been hearing behind the scenes and what's going on there, I don't know. It sounds they are not making any movement. They have not signed anybody, talked to anybody. They are just literally just telling people we can't talk to anybody right now. We're not doing anything right now. We'll get back to you guys type shit.
So of course we have to say first of all that ZooMaa's record in this Rostermania period in terms of getting things right hasn't been bang on the money. He's got some things right, he's got some things wrong, so, you know, take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But nonetheless, ZooMaa makes a fair point here, that LA Guerrillas seemingly are doing nothing. And if it happened with the Chengdu Hunters in the Overwatch League, why could it not happen here in the CDL when effectively LA Guerrillas say, you know what, we're not doing it, Bobby Kotick. And, well, he's got out of the organisation anyway soon enough with the Microsoft thing. We just don't care anymore. What are you going to do about it? There was rumours going around that there's a contractual obligation that the owner of the spot has to put up the money to at least field a roster, which might be the case. They might leave it absolutely last minute and pick up some challenger guys and pay them the minimum salary for the year so they can get out of here as soon as possible. But it's clear that they want to sell their spot and get out of here. The problem is, no one's going to buy that slot in the CDL. Even if they would, they'd buy it for a massively discounted price. And everyone's pretty sure that the CDL is going to disappear in the next couple of years or so, if not the next 12 months. So why would you buy a slot in the CDL that's probably going to get disbanded very soon anyway? And I must say, it wasn't long ago that I was concerned that if the CDL was to disappear, what's going to come next? Would Activision even care? Would Activision say, you know what, screw this esports thing, you guys aren't getting any support? I have a different perception now just because with Microsoft coming in, I think that if the CDL is to, you know, disappear, and it probably needs to, let's be honest, given the fact that stuff like this just keeps on happening with all the changes and all the drama and all the issues, like it needs to go at some point. There's no denying that franchising has been a disaster for Call of Duty esports, but, you know, Activision might have told, oh, okay, well, our idea didn't work, it's your guys' fault, we're not going to bother anymore. I'm sure Microsoft will have a different perception on that, what they've done, you know, to try to do with Gears of War and Halo and stuff like this over the last few years. Call of Duty is a much bigger product, much bigger esport. I'm sure there'll be something good that follows the CDL. It just might take a little bit of time. I guess for the near term, what do we do about this? If there's only 11 teams, what does the event look like? These are the current rosters. Of course, we have 2 more rosters that are yet to be confirmed. Guerrillas, we really have no clue what's going on. 11 teams, can I guess, work for the online qualifiers because they're all randomly assigned. It's the events where 11 teams is a bit of a nightmare. What do you do with 11? It's such an awful number. Like 12 is kind of bad enough, really, because you have to start teams and losers. Ideally, I guess you'd have 16. You could do some group play, stuff like that. But with 12, it's not great. 11, it's a prime number, you know. There's nothing much you could do with that. You can't divide it up in a certain way. How do you make it work, winners and losers? I don't know. Ideally, the best possible solution, I think, would be you simply replace LA Guerrillas with the best challenger team or a challenger team going into the event. Imagine every major, there was a pre-major challengers tournament where the winner of it, now I'm not sure how you would do this globally just because, you know, obviously there's going to be teams in the Americas, in Europe, in, you know, Asia Pacific, stuff like this, but maybe you could find a way where the best challenger team in a pre-major tournament gets to be the 12th team. That would bring in some of the pro-am element that we're lacking. I think that would be really cool personally and would be probably better for the league than actually having LA Guerrillas field the team in the first place. But that is a difficult question to answer at the moment, and I'm very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Whether they would do something like this, I don't know, because at the end of the day, even though probably a lot of these organisation owners know that the CDL is going to be wound down in the near future, they probably still wouldn't be happy that they've paid $25 million. Okay, they haven't paid all of that money yet, but you guys know what I mean. Paid a lot of money for the spot. That was always the issue with having pro-am events, was that, well, these guys are getting the same broadcast time as us, but they've paid zero, we've paid all these millions of dollars. So that's really why it never happened. But, you know, the pro-am did exist the last couple of years, and it was able to happen, just didn't happen every week, you know, it wasn't every major. So maybe there'd be some pushback there from some of the teams, but, oh, you know, you sure that we should really be giving this challenger team the spotlight in this way? But I'm not really sure that takes away much from the team in this situation and just really makes it better for everyone. So maybe that's the solution, I don't know, or LA Guerrillas will come out of nowhere and actually do something, but it is seeming more and more doubtful by the day. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.